Hi YouTube! If you don't have Inefa and you're wondering if Flins is still a good pool, this video is for you. After a few days of testing him on my account, I have a few things to say about him and his teams, listing his main pros and cons before concluding with my overall thoughts on the character. But before that, a short disclaimer. This is not supposed to be a guide. I won't be talking about his kit or the way to build him and so on. If you need that kind of information, I'll be leaving a few links in the description below. Also note that I tested Flins in the specific conditions of my account, so I don't have access to characters like Inefa, Shilonan or Yansan. I also didn't pull for his C1, he will be C0 during the whole video, but I was able to pull for his signature weapon, so you'll be seeing his performance with and without it. With the signature weapon, his build is as follows: 67.9 on crit rate, 230 on crit damage with 122 energy recharge. He's at 2400 attack. Since he gets 30% of crit rate with his set, he is basically at 98 here. His artifacts are as follow. He has the flower, the feather, the sand, the goblet, and the circlet. His constellation, as I was saying, is C0, and the talents, I crowned his ultimate and I kept his skill at level 8. With the F2P build, I ran him with a missive wind spear, and basically I replace here the goblet, and we will get this build. Basically he's at 90% crit rate, 205 crit damage, 132 energy recharge with a 2400 attack. Because we are playing Flins without Inefa, we will be forced to run him alongside Aino. He really needs another Nod-Krai unit in his team, otherwise you will be missing on a ton of damage. I didn't bother build my Aino, and to be honest, you don't really need to. I had her raised at level 50, I gave her a Favonius sword. I put her on Serenade with a focus on ER, and Constellation 0. Talent 111. So 0 investment on her. Just make sure to have enough ER to burst on cooldown because Flins really needs it. Getting constellations on her will improve the team damage. I think it's around 2% for her C1 and around 7% more damage on C6, but it's not crucial in my opinion. Don't feel the need to pull for her constellation, especially since she's most likely getting replaced in the future. I will be talking about that later. So with all this out of the way, let's start with Flins' pros. Guys, I know fun is subjective, but I can't help mentioning how fun he is to play. There's something very satisfying landing his ultimate nukes, but it's not only the big numbers go boom thing, but also the fact that his gameplay was very dynamic. You can delay the mini ults depending on your enemy's health, dashing in between autos and so on. He doesn't feel restricted to only one combo or one playstyle. For example, if you have enough energy recharge, you can have his big ultimate as an opening to deal big initial damage or help destroying a shield, then continuing with his mini ults later. Basically, he has a bit of gameplay variety that I definitely enjoyed in my different runs. Note though that if you swap him out, he will lose his infusion and his skill will go on cooldown. So flexible gameplay, yes, but not completely free of doing whatever he wants. Regarding his team, they were very cheap to build and pretty free to play friendly. As I showed you in the intro, my Aino is level 50 with Favonius weapon and no talent investment. The other units I tried in his teams were all 4 stars, and depending on the situation I was facing, I always had the choice. Go with Fischl and Sucrose for more damage, or with Lanyan and Cookie for more defensive options. Something important to point out is that he doesn't require high demand supports like Purina or Bennett for example, which might be key in endgame content, especially for newer players. In terms of performance, I beat Stygian third boss with a full free-to-play team with my Fischl C6 on Stringless, Aino C0 on Fav, Sucrose C6 on TTDS, and Flins on Missive Windspear. I know this boss is meant to make Flins look good, but just for example and to give you a little bit of context, the only team that helped me clear the boss before was a Chlorant C0 with Missplitter, Purina C0 with Fav, Fischl on Aqua, and Kazuha C0 with a Freedom Sword. So 3 5-star character and 3 5-star weapons to barely clear in 119 seconds. Meanwhile, my Flins F2P team was clearing it without 5-star weapons in 112 seconds. The moment I gave Fischl Aqua and Flins his signature, I improved that clear time significantly, and this leads me to talk about another positive aspects of Flins. He scales very well with investment. If you decide to spend primos on him, whether now or in the future, he will get very, very good. Getting him Inefa, his signature, and or his early constellations will improve his team damage significantly. This doesn't mean that his current free-to-play team is underpowered or anything. All I'm saying here is that if you decide to keep investing on him, you won't be disappointed. Last thing I want to touch on is regarding his growth potential in the future patches. You look at his current team and it's so obvious that the Hydro spot will get better options in the future, and that's the reason I was suggesting not to invest on Aino earlier in the video. More generally, I don't think it's far-fetched to say that his team will become stronger with the release of more Hydro, Electro and support units from Nod-Krai. I'm not saying get him, he will get better, but more like now that I have him, I'm pretty confident he will keep getting his teams improved with the incoming patches. Let's address the elephant in the room. Flins needs to have another Nod-Krai character in the team, otherwise his damage falls off dramatically. Since I don't have enough or Loma, this means that Aino will be glued to him for the foreseeable future. This restriction will be alleviated with the release of more Nod-Krai unit later, but it doesn't mean that it's still a bit annoying right now. For example, I played the Imaginarium Theater not long ago, and not having a lot of options in terms of Nod-Krai characters with him was definitely a problem. Regarding his most performant team, you will have to play him without a shield or a healer in a team with Fischl, Sucrose and Aino, for example, and that can represent an issue for some players. Replacing Fischl with a defensive option might cost you a lot of team DPS that might lead to not being able to clear the content depending on the difficulty. Let's say I'm facing a high HP boss with the corrosion effect, then yeah, my Flins team would be barely playable and I'll have to try something else. Lastly, and if you compare him to other top DPS units, he lacks team versatility. For example, you can play Arlecchino in Melt, Vape or Mono Pyro teams. Meanwhile, you'd be stuck in Lunar Charge teams with Flins. You can play him with Loma in a weird Quick Bloom team, but since I don't have Loma, I couldn't test it. And from the very few feedbacks I've seen about it, it's not the most synergistic team. You can also play him in an Overload team if and only if the enemy is infused with Hydro, but these cases are so niche that it's not worth mentioning. I'm going to be honest with you, coming back to the game recently and hearing all the doom posting about Flins without Inefa before his release, I was a bit worried about his overall performance on my account. After a few days of playing him, I can confidently say that he's completely fine without her, and you can clear most of the content in very cheap teams overall. The only content you won't be able to clear without Inefa is Stygian Onslaught Dire difficulty, but since my account can't beat the first two bosses anyway, not being able to clear the Fatui didn't matter to me. Electro is my favorite element in the game, and Polearm is my favorite weapon type, so it was evident I was going to pull for him. And wait, what's that? What about Sino? Yeah, Flins is now my second favorite Electro DPS on my account with a very fun gameplay and sick aura farming skills. You really can't go wrong with him, especially if you are a relatively new player, thanks to his character banner. Because as you can see, you have Sucrose and Aino in there, who are two very good units for free-to-play players. My favorite Electro DPS is of course Keqing, that I will most likely C6 in the next few days, thanks to the anniversary of his 5-star ticket. So make sure to sub to the channel to not miss that future video. And with that, I'll leave you be. If you enjoyed the video, feel free to do the YouTube things, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!